Throughout history, the mantle of authority wielded by a dominant class has subjugated humanity consistently and effectively. This seemingly endless cyclic repetition of violence and aggression, fueled by fear, hate, and deception, by which the powerful maintain dominance and control over our political, economic, and social structures, creates the daily world we live in. The question of why does history keep repeating itself, how does it happen, what are the root causes, and what can be done about it, are the constructs by which we as individuals can change our world and create a vision of a future that is deserving of humanity. The awareness, knowledge, and understanding required to obtain and act according to wisdom in a free society is not enough in itself. Knowledge in itself is neither good nor evil, without action, and can just as easily be applied to acts of violence, destruction, and death. But to obtain knowledge and act with compassion is the mark of a civilized society. Methods of politics deployed by the ruling class suppress the virtues of awareness, knowledge, understanding, and compassion, as these threaten the underpinnings of their delusional version of reality. A world that we have been taught to embrace, reinforced with fear, threats of violence, and theft and/or denial of our natural sovereign rights. Authority for this ruling class to dominate society is not granted according to natural law or any universal right. It is granted by the governed. Politics is an agreement made between the people, the subjects, and a ruling class to maintain authority over them through the rule of law. This agreement implies the right of the ruling class to use force and/or threats of violence upon those who break the law in return for protection in the act of national self-defense. We have the choice between honoring this agreement by recognizing this authority or not. Should the maintaining of authority over the governed be dismissed, the agreement is rescinded and the existing government abolished. What history reveals is that the very act of granting authority to a ruling class to possess the power to commit acts of violence against its own subjects is in itself a violation of natural law. As long as the governed continue to recognize this authority and permit its continuation through passive non-action, history continues to repeat itself status quo. When the governed no longer recognize this authority, the agreement of politics becomes null and void. To establish a society based upon the universal principles of natural law is the antithesis of politics. Natural law has several definitions, having been addressed in such acts as the Magna Carta during the 11th century, the establishment of common law during the Enlightenment, and the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights in the American Revolution. These acts of defiance against the ruling class are the result of the will of the governed being imposed upon the ruling class. All acts of the establishment of human rights and natural law throughout history have been through revolt, rebellion, and revolution, ultimately an overthrowing of the existing power structure in defiance of existing human law. These brief periods of light in the history of human liberty and freedom are few compared to the authoritative pall of existence that has dominated our society, requiring constant vigilance against the same from creeping back into our midst. So how does authority become re-granted to the few to dominate the majority? Why do we keep letting this happen? Our daily political world in the U.S. remains dominated by the same economic and political paradigm of malignant narcissism that has filled the history books. The ways of the wicked are clever and many. It is an age-old trick to create a phony belief system based upon a deceptive world dominated by politics. Their tools of illusion, distraction, deception, hate, fear, and violence are powerful, and their effects profound, but not well understood by those subjected to them. This is how they perpetuate the status quo, and this is how history repeats itself. It is through a trick of the will that we let ourselves become manipulated again and again, until it seems we have no other way. An illusory belief system slowly replaces what we know is right and true by universal rights guaranteed by natural law. We always have the choice between acting according to natural law or suffer the consequences of ignoring it. That is our lot as humans. It is still our choice. It takes an act of will, but not an act of will on its own, but an act of will based upon natural law and based upon the universal principle of compassion.